There's a grandeur in this view of life. From so simple a beginning, endless forms most beautiful and wonderful have been, and are being, evolved. Charles Darwin arguably paved a path for modern biology that would spark great debate in the theory of evolutionary development. More specifically, scientists aimed to develop both an accurate and rational understanding of the mechanisms that comprise the concept of evolution. This entailed crafting an argument that accounted for the vast array of differences in the form and structure of organisms around the world. Why do flies and humans utilize different eye mechanisms? For what reason do fish of the same species have such different spinal structures? How is it possible that cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and sacral vertebrae all exist in their own distinct manner within creatures? These are the questions that arose preceding Darwin's theory of evolution, and contemporary scientists have made monumental progress to answer such propositions since then. The first milestone that commenced said progress was the theory that the root of all evolutionary development is embryology, controlled by a vast pool of ancient genes. With this in mind, biologists began an in-depth study that, to an extent, still poses new questions today. With that being said, the ultimate goal was to determine how organisms could vary so significantly and still use a common set of ancient genes. For scientists like Ernst Mayr, he generally was accustomed to the idea that many roads lead to Rome. In other words, Mayr suggested that cellular anatomy had crafted some 40 or 50 different versions of characteristics in animals, such as eye types, spinal structure, and blood circulation systems. This theory was shot down after new and compelling evidence arose in the scientific world. For example, the origin of eyes has received a lot of attention throughout the history of evolutionary biology. What has puzzled and intrigued biologists ever since Darwin is the variety of eye types in the animal kingdom. We and other vertebrates have camera-type eyes with a single lens. Flies, crabs, and other arthropods have compound eyes in which many, sometimes hundreds of unit eyes gather visual information. Even though they're not close relatives of ours, squids and octopi also have camera-type eyes, whereas their own close relatives, the clams and the scallops, have three kinds of eyes: camera, compound, and mirror type. In 1994, Walter Gehring and his colleagues at the University of Basel in Switzerland discussed that the gene required for the eye formation in fruit flies is the exact counterpart of a gene required for the eye formation in humans and mice. This gene was named PAX5, and it was found to play a significant role in eye formation in the plethora of different organisms. This suggested that despite the evident differences in eye structure, the evolution of different eyes has involved a common ingredient, so to speak, debunking Mayer's analogy that many roads lead to Rome. Some scientists assume that because organisms have become so complex over the years, surely new unique genes are being introduced into populations. Yet it is now being concluded that all of the genes were derived from a common ancestor over 500 million years ago. More compelling evidence accelerates the theory that there is a common gene for almost all morphological characteristics. One of the most notable Evo-Devo concept is that of segments and vertebrates and their slight variations from a common gene. Scientists were forced to develop an argument as to how varying vertebrates such as cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and sacral were all derived. Because they could no longer adhere to Mayer's theory, they again looked into a common toolkit or genes among organisms. What they found was a set of toolkit genes called Hox genes, which were accountable for shaping the number and appearance of repeating structures along the main body axis of both vertebrates, which include fish, humans, and reptiles, and arthropods, which include centipedes, spiders, and insects. For instance, these shifts in a common gene, or the Hox genes, account for the way in which a snake forms its long and unique body with an abundance of long rib-bearing vertebrae and no neck. In contrast to other vertebrates, There are distinct differences thanks to said Hox genes.
Okay guys, so after watching that video and taking in the essential points, what gene plays a role in eye formation? You can pause the video and try and answer that. Okay, so the answer is the PAX6 gene, and if you missed that, you should go back to that area of the video and try and refresh your memory, as that's an essential point to take away.
Alright, so the second review question we have is, what have scientists assumed because organisms have become so complex over the years? And just pause the video and answer that. And the answer to this second review question is that new unique genes are being introduced into populations. So that's what they assume, and if you didn't get that, just go back to the video and try and find that answer.